and he's going to be talking to us about coastal areas and human intervention. And this is research that he did in a previous life, I guess, at the University of and Cadiz. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so give it up for Fran.
Hello, thank you everyone. So just as Anna said, this was part of my past life, let's say. So when I was in academia and all that. So it's a little bit, about coastal areas and human intervention, and maybe a little bit about plants, because that's what I've been doing for like many years. So first I wanted to show you just this, right? This just seems like a really nice grass place park where you can lie down, so cool. I don't know if you know that building, any of you know what that building is, or sounds familiar? No? Better. Because if we expand this picture a little bit more, then we can see something there. And if we expand this picture a little bit more, okay, that's Spain, but have the full picture, I swear it's like that. So, this is basically the sea, right? I have the picture, okay? So this is basically it. It's not exactly the same moment. But this is during the Beijing Olympic Games. And this is the place where it was supposed to be like the sailing Olympics. It was supposed to be here. And that happened. This was already when they kind of fixed it a little bit. But it was way worse before. So I was standing more than 1 kilometer away. This is a bloom of algae. So it's algae that grew there, and it was really, really thick. I mean, kind of cool. You can go in there. It's fun, can be fun. But just think about how thick this thing is. That's on top of the water. So it can be up to, well, this guy really put some effort on it. But it could be like half a meter of this algae accumulating on top all the time. So it's basically this. It's just these little guys here that we can find also in Denmark, down in Spain, in Asia. That's almost everywhere. It's a family of algae that can be found almost everywhere. So, how did we get to like this guy, the happy Chinese? And the answer is nutrients. So what happened here is nutrients. And when I say nutrients, do I mean this? Maybe, maybe not. It's not exactly, but this is what you get when you write nutrients in Google, right? So I was just looking like through really serious database, Google image, and you write nutrients, and this is what you find. But it's like, okay, actually, it's kind of cool because this is what we want to make. So we want to make food, and to make food, we need to plant the food. So for vegetables, of course, we need to plant it, and for that we need fertilizer on it. Fertilizer that's basically nitrogen and phosphorus. So this is human intervention number 1. We are already putting stuff in nature that wasn't there. We have soil and we have put a ton of fertilizer that wasn't there, so it's the first human intervention that we do here. Okay, let's see how it goes. So just to have a bit of the bigger picture, right? This is basically the amount of nitrogen that we get added to the soils in different regions of the world. So you can see certain patterns, and of course it's always Europe, America, and Southeast Asia, but except for that, there's also coastal areas in general. And why coastal areas? Why do we have more in coastal areas? And this is human population. So human population is typically distributed through, there's way more dense in coastal areas. But not only that, the change in human population. Blue areas, areas where people are moving out from. Brown areas where the people are moving in. So people are leaving the continental places and going to the coastal areas. So that problem is getting like bigger and bigger and bigger. So then, when we talk about these nutrients, about this phosphorus and nitrogen, we will need like more food. If we need more food, we need more fertilizer, we need more phosphorus, more nitrogen, and we will have more habitats. So, okay, back to Beijing and the Olympic Games. So, 1 week before, it was way worse than it is right now. It was full of algae, more than half a meter thick, and they need to sail there. So it's completely impossible. I don't know if you've ever seen one of these things. I've walked on top of one of these things. You cannot even move. Just imagine sailing through it. So kind of difficult. So China, okay, if China has one thing more than the rest of the world, it's people, right? So what they decided, it's like, what can we do? People. So volunteers everywhere. They decided to just go. I don't know if they paid them. I don't know if they forced them. I don't know. Whatever. They did it. That's the thing, right? So they were collecting algae. They were paying the fishermen to not fish and go out and collect this algae, just because we need to get the Olympic Games going. The army was also helping. They were collecting algae and more algae. Also, this guy was also helping, but in his own way. Even trucks, heavy machinery, whatever, they were collecting, and really, success. They cleaned it. They reduced the amount of algae in about 90%, 80, 90%, I don't remember exactly the number right now, but like 80, 90%. So, success, right? Then, they cleaned it up 2 or 3 days before the Olympics were happening. So, the day of the Olympics, it looked like this. So, success? Yeah. So what happened here? So, two things happened here. First thing, this is the little guy, right? As I told you before, this is what's causing everything, and it's forming these huge mats. So, we got it. We just take it out, right? We take it out. What happens when we take it out? They just break into pieces. So we take big part of it out, but we have small chunks of it that stay in the water. And then, well, but it's fine. It's just small pieces, right? Right? It's kind of almost there. Yeah? Okay, no, we're fine. So the situation can get even worse than it was before, just because of bad management. But there's also another reason. And this is the other reason. So if you just go there and say, okay, we have a lot of nutrients in the water because we're using a lot of fertilizers to produce our food, but we need to get rid of this algae. So we just go there with excavators, with people, and remove it, but we don't do anything about this. Nothing at all. So we have this thing, and on top, the same amount of nutrients. So many more of this algae that can grow really fast, and the same amount of nutrients. So they go crazy. They start growing like crazy. So if you look at the map that I showed you before, the red area, the black area, sorry, are the ones with the most nitrogen. You see that if you don't know where Beijing is, so it's right that black one there, but it's even better because you know where the sailings were happening. Down there. Oh, what a coincidence. That's another black one there, right? So those two marks exactly the place where the Olympics were happening and where the sailing thing was happening as well. And even like journals like Nature, many others of course, like not the title, but just like algal bloom may have been boosted by fertilizer runoff. Yeah, you use, right? That's a Nature. I mean, it's good, but so to make it easy, so what does a plant need? Right? So if we have a plant just needs CO2, light, water, and something that's missing this one, nitrogen and phosphorus, so nutrients, right? If we're talking, I'm saying plants all the time, and that's just because I've been working with plants a lot of time. But most of the time that I say plants, I'm talking about algae, and it's a terrible mistake. Please never confuse those things. identify them. But the principle is the same, so they need the same thing. They do photosynthesis, so they need the same thing. The point is that if you're in the water, you live in the water, like more water, I mean, it's not really a problem, right? You're going to have water, you're living in the sea, so that's not a big deal. CO2 is also not a big deal because it diffuses from the atmosphere and it's almost unlimited. So typically what is limiting is the sunlight. If it's cloudy, you have less sun basically, or the amount of nutrients that you have. So as long as you have that, happy plants. Okay, now we understand what's going on with the algae and all the things that were going on, and this was basically the introduction to my talk. But what about the rest? Because they were so focused on we need to get rid of this algae that they didn't even think about the rest. Unfortunately, we didn't have studies about that. But back then, when I was working in academia, we thought about this problem, and we decided to make an experiment indoors, back in Cádiz, in Spain, because there's many more things than just the algae, right? In the ecosystem, we have a lot. We have like clams, crabs, we have worms, actually worms that are like half the size of a person. Yeah, so we can work on a little more scale, but yeah. But I'm going to focus, I told you that I was going to talk a little bit about plants, and it's just because what I've been working with for a big part of my life. And those little ones here, I know people usually think that, oh, he's going to talk about birds, or about the fishes, or about, no, I'm going to talk about plants, sorry. So those plants are these plants. They're called seagrasses. They're basically marine plants, regular plants like the ones that you can find on land, but on the sea. They're not only beautiful, and they form like this big forest underwater, like this one. But they also serve. They have many other purposes, like this species, like birds that feed on them because there's a lot of worms and etc. on them. They also are able to retain the sediment, so they make more difficult the coastal erosion to happen. So they retain all the sediment there, and they also are really good as nurturing areas. Nurturing areas for fishes. Fishes that can just lay their eggs there and they're protected from predators, etc. So, this is Spain. And this is where I'm from Cádiz. This is how it looks like. This is how it looks like. This is my own taco. Really nice Irish pub there. Nice place to eat. You can eat churros here if you want to as well. Ton of places. Okay, off topic. So this is where we did our research. This is the Bay of Cádiz. There's a lot of towns around, but this place is full of these plants that I told you about. So this is me in that area. You remember those algae that were growing everywhere? There you go. Full. Under these things, there's seagrasses. There's these marine plants. They're living underneath. Just want to clarify that this is not the same thing that we were seeing in China during the Olympics. It's something that happens in this area once a year. Every year around March, you have that. It's not because excess of nutrients, it's just because there's, when spring comes, there's more solar radiation, and there's all the processes that if you want later I can tell you about, but I just don't think that I have to mention that now. But yeah, so we decided, part of my thesis, to do a chapter about it, and we did an experiment about it. No one cares, this is part of my thesis, I just wanted to brag a little bit. But so this is the title, right? Interaction between ammonia toxicity and green tide development of a seagrass meadows, a laboratory study, and a ton of names that, let's leave it there. So what did we do exactly here? Remember this picture that I showed you before? So basically we said that the two things that are usually limited are light, nitrogen and phosphorus. In this case we eliminated phosphorus and we just work with nitrogen. That's it. Nitrogen and sun. And let's see what's the effect of this high amount of nitrogen from the fertilizers and a lot of algae on top. So let's see what happens. So this was our hypothesis. This is something that I haven't told you. So that you see there is ammonium is a form of nitrogen, and it's pretty common on the sea. The peculiarity about this one is the best one for plants. It's the one that plants like the most, but it has something wrong, something bad. And that's it, that when the concentration is high, it becomes toxic for the plant. So if we have a lot of this, it will have a negative effect on the plant, because we know that it's toxic. There's previous studies about it. So that's our hypothesis 1. Hypothesis 2, algae. If we have algae, we have the plants growing on the bottom because they have roots on their root sediment, and we have algae growing on top. What's going to happen? Ground effect. Why? Because they have no light. You have plants growing down there. It's going to be covered by a lot of algae. They're not going to receive any light, so they're going to have a hard time. But what if we have both at the same time? That's just horrible, right? I mean, you don't have light, but on top of that, you have a lot of toxic stuff around you. Seems reasonable, doesn't it? Let's see. So we did the experiment, and this was the experiment. This is what we did. We did an aquarium, different ones, where we had the plants here, and we just put the algae on top to stay there. And we incubated for 42 days. 42 days that I had to go every single day to yeah. You say, 42 days. No, 42 days. That's a big bit. So this is one of the results. And yeah, I know, big graph, lot of stuff. Don't need to worry about it. Let's go one by one. So we start with this. In the x-axis, this 0 here is basically the amount of vulva of the algae that we have. So basically we have no algae here. And the this in the y-axis, this RGR is relative growth rate. So basically based on weight. So it's basically telling you what percentage of their own weight is gaining per day. So basically this bar means that these plants living this treatment, they gain 1% of their own weight per day. Okay? So the higher this, the better the performance, basically. This first one is with no ammonium. We did 3 different treatments, one with no ammonium, one with a lot of it, and one with a shit ton. Like a shit ton of it, it's a lot. And this is what we found. When we did not anything, we have a reasonably high growth rate, and as long as we introduce this ammonium, that is, as I told you before, is toxic, this happens. So, first hypothesis, check, right? It's fine. Seems like it has a negative effect. Good. Second hypothesis, we go to this for these bars. This is with no addition of ammonium, when you have no algae, some algae, and a lot of algae. What's the pattern? There's a little bump here. I can explain it afterwards as well why that happens, but the pattern is kind of decreasing, right? Over time. So that means that when we increase the number of algae, the plants are growing less. So second hypothesis, negative impact of the algae, check. And the last one was the combination. So for the combination, if we look at this one, which is 25 micromolar, which is like high concentration of ammonium, when we don't have any algae, it's actually decreasing in weight every day. When we add one layer of algae, so some algae to it, actually performs better. And when we have a shit ton of algae, it does even better. Okay. This is when we add a shit ton of ammonium. And the pattern is the same. Again. So, what about our hypothesis? Is it right? Was it right? No. So what's happening here? So what's happening here, I will just make like a super quick question because I think I have more time.
Super quick, go.
Yeah. So this is basically the initial situation, right? We have a lot of algae there. Well, you reduce the light and you reduce the performance. Okay. Then the next one is we have a lot of ammonium. We have a lot of ammonium. It has a negative effect as well. But if we add now a lot of algae here and it reduces light, it's true. But one thing that these algae can do, they grow super fast. So since they grow super fast, they also remove part of this ammonium. So there's a feedback there that's actually helping. So when they actually remove all that back in China, whatever was living underneath, we don't know because there's no studies about it, but it's pretty much likely that they died or they were like heavily damaged. So as take-home messages, first, keep calm, don't touch it. That's the first thing. Just don't touch it, because you probably have no idea what you're doing at first. So unless you're goddamn sure what you're doing, just don't touch it. And for that, we need scientists. You just need to consult. You just don't take decisions like that. Oh, there's algae there. Let's go and collect and remove everything, because yeah, shit can happen. Second thing, this is a biofertilizer. If you combine that with this way of irrigation, which is a thing, you get this. And that's a fact. That's what happened. So first, find the source and fix it. Don't touch everything and then pretend that nothing happens. First, you need to fix the source. And third one, then you can touch, you can play, as Aqua said. So, and if anything of this works, just fuck it, take a cold beer. Thank you.
Very exciting. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, one over there, lady.
Since you're the expert in algae, the thing covering the node building,
Yes, there's always.
is that algae?
To be honest, I haven't go and check it, so yeah, I've seen it from far away. And most likely it is algae because it's.
So we should leave it as it is, not complain.
When I said before that in Cadiz, this bloom that we have every year, one of the reasons is temperature. So temperature can actually trigger the growth of this algae. Yeah.
So when you tear algae apart, they all grow themselves again?
Yeah. They all grow themselves again, and the thing is that it's surface dependent. So the more surface you have, the faster they grow. So if you have one piece like this, it grows fast. But if you have two pieces like this, it grows faster. And if you have 1,000 million pieces like this, it grows 1,000 million faster.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's why it can make it even
So all
worse.
those people taking it away probably stopped on it and
Just kind of like a food.
Yeah, there's one more question over there.
Okay, is this my PhD defense all over again? No.
we're going on holiday after that.
I was wondering why.
Well, back in the lab where I was working, there's like a really long trajectory of people doing this kind of research, and we have seen that the toxic effects of this ammonium, of this nitrogen compound, starts usually between the day 25 and 30. So we just wanted to make sure that we have that effect, so then we prolong it a little bit more. And when we saw that basically the rule of thumb here was like, okay, are they dying yet? Are they dying yet? Okay, now they're dying, so we're stopping. So before we don't have any plan to analyze.
There's one more question in that corner.
Yes?
Hey, do you know what happened afterwards in China? Like, did they actually remove the algae or?
Well, they still have that problem for sure. They still have that problem. They're trying to control the nutrients, but you know, so
Is there
many
a way
million people living there. So
So is there a way to get rid of algae? Like, if it grows like super quickly, what is the right way to get rid of it?
the point is that removing it is not as bad. The bad part is removing everything. Because if you remove everything, you're basically punishing whatever is living underneath. So you need to remove whatever is dead. When you have those thick mats that you see at the beginning, like they can be like half a meter, big part of them are dead. Because what gets trapped in the meter, they cannot receive any nutrients. They almost don't receive any light, so they just die. Also, there's no oxygen there, so they start having like sulfide and other compounds that are toxic. So basically, you need to remove. If you want to remove something, you should remove the part that is dead and leave the part that is alive, that is still taking out the nutrients. And when you fix your source, and things will become normal with time.
Right.
But that's the point of like human intervention. It's like we always want to fix So we destroy things by intervening on it, and then we want to fix it by intervening more. No, just try to get things back to normal, and then leave nature to fix it itself, because it's always going to be better. We can speed up things, but not like artificially made it. Yeah.
Are there any kinds of research done in how to sort of imitate nature's way of ameliorating the effects of, say, I don't know, various kinds of human pollution, so that you will sort of do it the same way you combine different crops, for example, in agricultural setting, to make sure that the various plants and organisms could take advantage of each other's disposable material.
You mean like back in the fields when you're cultivating, right? Ways that you don't have like that much runoff with nutrients. Is that what you, or?
Yes, so I was just thinking that there's just been so much research in some areas where you talk about sort of designing systems, right?
Yes.
I was just thinking, has there been done research into doing that in coastal areas, so that instead of just having sort of bandage approach solutions, you would try and sort of get more into the substance of how nature takes various organisms to take care of the entire ecosystem, and then
it's
try
a bit
to sort of absorb that, so you could intervene in a smarter way.
Yeah, it's a bit more complicated in coastal areas, of course, because, for example, fish farms, for example, is pretty easy, right? Because the source is pretty located. So you have basically a pipe or whatever that is throwing the water away, so you can control that, but in the coastal areas it's really diffuse, so it comes from almost everywhere, so controlling in the coastal areas is really difficult. That control needs to be done upwards. It needs to be done on the fields, on the amount of fertilizers that you put on the fields. There's some things done in coastal areas, but they usually like very like case dependent, depending on how's the configuration of the area like the geography of the area that you want to clean. You even have some chemicals that you can use to kind of clump together some of the nutrients, but it's not the best solution, because it's like intervening again and adding more chemicals. So there's no a really good solution yet for coastal areas. No, there's not. Thank you.
Thank you very much.